Hi there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder here with this week's episode of the Tuesday Brewsday. Don't have a lot of time again to play today, but I thought I would show you the deck that I've been working on, a fun deck in Pioneer called Dubious Challenge. So this is my take on the classic card. We have some goodies now that Charming Prince has been printed into the format. We have Trostani Discordant and the Charming Prince that actually work quite well with the Dubious Challenge. So the whole idea with Dubious Challenge is to ramp out a big creature that then your opponent will have a very difficult time dealing with. And right now, I'm thinking Worldspine Wurm is one of the better cards. It still does die to any of the exile type effects. However, if it does survive or does get removed by traditional removal, we still have 3 5/5 worms that get put behind. And then a couple other ones that I thought were Void Winnower, Stormtide Leviathan, and Nezahal Primal Tide. I think this one will be really good versus the control, as soon as they cast any spell to take care of it, then the Nezahal at least will draw a card. So that's kind of my go-to. I mean, there are, you could go into Naya with like Galtas. Black had some decent cards with the creature that allows you to sacrifice a creature to tutor up any card out of your library. There's some neat cards that pair well, but I liked Bant because we can do the whole switcheroo with Bant and go over to an aggressive style, just cut the combo, and then just go over to an aggressive style deck with bringing in cards like Tamiyo, Field Researcher, Thalia, and then like Knight of Autumns. Knight of Autumns also it's an aggressive card. It's also a card that's good versus aggro and good versus any deck that's running artifacts or enchantments. So that's kind of my idea with the deck. Let's go on to the deck list. We're going to be running the full play set of Breeding Pools and Temple Gardens, as well as 2 of each of the checklands of Sunpetal Grove and Hinterland Harbor, 4 forest, 1 island, 1 plains, 2 Yavimaya Coast, and then 2 Field of Ruins just to stop any sort of shenanigans that our opponents are playing with lands. It also helps us fix to go and get a specific basic land that we need. There's another way I thought about building this deck with Teferi and Narset and Days Undoing. Days Undoing is neat with this deck because one of the problems with Dubious Challenge, if it gets stuck in your hand, you're stuck with a card you're never going to be able to cast. Therefore, Days Undoing allows you to shuffle it back in, and you can do that with Teferi on your opponent's turn, which is a neat little combo. But I didn't want to fork over the 200 tickets that's required to get Teferis on MTGO. They're going for 52 tickets a piece. It's about time to draft War of the Spark. I mean, right there should have enough EV just to be drafting War of the Spark if it's even available on MTGO. I guess there's just a lack of drafters right now on MTGO due to the kind of the crappy how you can turn in 1 of each card for a set. I think it's just too expensive at this point. Anyway, let's go down the list. I'm running the typical package of these 6 mana dorks with the Elvish Mystics and the Llanowar Elves. And then we have the Smuggler's Copter to loot away all the Worldspine Wurms. That's also another reason why we like Worldspine Wurm in this deck, is we're never going to be able to cast it. So Smuggler's Copter is a way to loot it away. And then Champion of Wits is the other way to loot it away. So we're going to be digging for those Dubious Challenges, try to get out a big worm, and see if that's going to be enough to finish off the game. The flex piece that I have in this deck is Courser of Kruphix because I think it's another way to help us dig, to get lands off the top. It's a pretty good stabilizing card. There's a lot of mono red running around right now in Phoenixes, and this card actually survives most removal in the format. Fatal Push takes some work. Lightning Strike doesn't kill it, neither does the Wizard's Lightning or the Skewer the Critics, and of course Wild Slash misses as well. So I think Courser is one of the best 3-drops. Tyler Tracker could easily go in this slot too, but I prefer the Courser. And then Charming Prince is really good too to either gain life, scry 2, or how we're using it in this deck with the Dubious Challenge is it exiles another target creature you own. Not you control, you own, and then return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of next end step. So Dubious Challenge, you'll have Charming Prince, as well as hopefully another card you'll find, like a big Stormtide Leviathan or Nezahal Primal Tide or Worldspine Wurm, and then your opponent will have to just take a 2/2 at that point, and then you get the big one, because if they take the big creature and you get the Charming Prince, then you just exile it and then you get it back on your side. The same thing can be said for Trostani. Trostani says at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. So this one's a little bit better than the Charming Prince route, though your opponent probably does take the Trostani and gets 2/1/1s. However, this one also has some synergy with the Champion of Wits, and it just makes your mana dorks bigger, makes you aggressive, and the Smuggler's Copter also turns the Smuggler's Copter, but the Champion is kind of cool after Trostani because it enters the battlefield as a 3/2, and then you draw 3 cards and then discard 2, so it's actually card advantage at that point with the Champion of Wits. So that's kind of the idea of the deck. I'm not too serious about this deck. We're going to go ahead and run it in just some fun. Let's go ahead and do just some Pioneer practice here and see if we can actually win a game with this particular deck. So I'm going to go ahead and create one and see if we can get someone to join us and see if we can get those worms. So I thought about running like there's like the other card you can run in the deck is the I'm trying to think of the sorcery where you shuffle your library and then reveal the top card of your library. That also seems like a pretty fun thing to run in this deck. I can't remember. It's out of one of the old school Ravnica sets. So in the comment section, let me know what I'm thinking about. The Unexpected Results. There we go. That's the card that I am thinking about. So, all right, let's wait on our opponent here. Again, this won't be a very highly edited video because I am literally on the run today. I have a lot to do. Have to edit a Rogue Roundup video for the other channel and start editing another video. So you're just going to get as goes with this deck, and hopefully our opponent will want to play. I think this is actually keepable just with the Champion of Wits. No mana dork to go turn 2 Champion of Wits, but we do have a way to ditch the Worldspine Wurm. And it's going to be lands. So we do actually match up decently versus lands with, well, we probably don't actually, let's be honest. We probably match up pretty terrible. There's a Dubious challenge. Let's go ahead and just put the Temple Garden into play, tapped and pass the turn, and then pass back to our opponent. Thought about putting like another mana dork in here, like the Paradise Druid. And in fact, Paradise Druid, well, the thing is you can go the turn 2 Courser and the turn 2 Champion of Wits. If you go Paradise Druid, I go something like the Champion of Rhonas. That way you can go 2 into 4. Our opponent is definitely ramping out. We do not match up versus this deck at all. I don't think there's a way for us to really push through for what our opponent's doing. This is the Field of the Dead desert list. So probably next turn our opponent will have the Hour of Promise. They always have one in their opening hand. It's one of the things that's programmed into MTGO. If you're running Hour of Promise deck, you get to have at least one in your starting hand with 2 ramp cards. All right, so let's go ahead and throw out the Smuggler's Copter. Kind of slow here without our mana dorks, but it is what it is. And then it passed the turn. And here comes the Hour of Promise, I'm sure. Like I said, they get to start one in their opening hand. And our opponent probably will go get another Desert and a Field of the Dead, and then that puts out, it'll put out a ton of 2/2s. So did go and get the last Desert, and there's 4 2/2s. And we get a whopping Champion of Wits out next turn, and we probably lost this one. Another Trostani is not what we like to see. Go ahead, throw out the Champion of Wits, and discard 2 cards. I don't know if I want to show my opponent. I mean, they could be out of cards, though. They're only getting 1 zombie per turn at this point, but I mean, the deck is so redundant. Let's get rid of both the Worldspine Wurm and the Nezahal, and then just pass the turn back to our opponent, and this will shuffle the Worldspine Wurm back in. We do have the Dubious challenge next turn, but I don't think that anything that we have like shuts down our opponent. Void Winnower does, right? Because they can't block. It's not attack. They can't block. So they get another 2/2 zombie this turn by playing another Shrine of the Forsaken God. And if they have Ugin here, then we're really in a pickle. And it looks like that's what's going to come down. So my opponent has literally the God Hand if it is Ugin. Or it just could be a big walking ballista too. Worldbreaker. So gets to exile in a land. It actually takes me off. No, it does take me off the... And then goes and gets another one. We've actually lost this one. I'm going to scoop it up. We've lost the Worldbreaker. Go on to the sideboard. There's not a lot I can do here to stop what my opponent's doing. Like the Needle doesn't do much. It can shut down The Thalia's Heretical Cathar is also quite weak. So I'm thinking that we're just going to play business as usual. Let's just try to get off a Dubious challenge. Hopefully we can keep a hand with Elvish Mystic to really ramp up. But lands is a difficult deck to play against. Like, ramp is still incredibly strong. They did ban Veil of Summer, but there are just too many cards. They've been printing too many good ramp cards as of late. And then the Field of the Dead allows them to at least generate some resources for being able to combat control. And I don't think that there really needs to be anything like the format is diverse enough that there is incredibly aggressive decks that can push through the lands. But yeah, it's a strong archetype right now to be going this. You can go many different strategies with ramp. You can even go the old school, go for like the 6-drop Chandras pretty quickly, and that's a pretty good strategy. And then of course going Ugin and Ulamog, and as you saw right there, Worldbreaker is also a very, very potent strategy with the Field of Dead and the Hour of Promise. So Hour of Promise is spiking right now in paper, and I expect it to be doing the same in MTGO here shortly. So let's start us off with some mana dorks here. I think I have to mulligan this. The Champion of Wits was too slow last time. This isn't terrible though. I'm gonna keep it. Our opponent had literally the God Draw with the Hour of Promise and the Elvish Rejuvenator Arbor, which just really ramped them up. And this we at least can get out the turn 3 champion and turn 4 Dubious challenge. Opponent mulls to 6. They have some very, very awkward mana scenarios with lands as well that they can get caught up with and just not like find a decent green source early on. So that's also another thing that's going against these ramp decks. But I don't know if this is a keepable hand again. Our opponent does keep the 6. No, we'd not like to play 2 life here. Maybe we have to go up to 8 mana dorks. So I'm actually thinking of doing that, like running just a mana dork.deck with the Tamiyo. Seems like a pretty good strategy. Man, this just loves to draw Trostanis, doesn't it? It's finding all the Dubious challenge cards in our opening hand. Pass the turn back to our opponent. So Stomping Ground. Next turn we have Champion. Drop this, drop this. Ugh, Once Upon a Time. There's the next card that needs to go. If there's any reason to ban this card, it's decks like lands. It's too efficient to finding exactly the toolbox land. And for free, it's just a ridiculous card. Cannot wait till it's out of all the formats. Let's go with Sunpetal Grove, and we'll go Champion of Wits. And then drop both Stormtide Leviathan. Unfortunately, like, Stormtide's a pretty good card versus our opponent. Unfortunately, it gets ditched. And next turn, we do get the Dubious challenge, and let's hope we actually find like a Worldspine. Unfortunately, I have a Trostani Discordant, a Stormtide Leviathan, and a Nezahal that are already been revealed. We could hit just nothing with Dubious challenge and find like 2 dorks, 2 mana dorks, which is absolutely ridiculous. And here comes our opponent that's going to be ramping. Gets an Aether Hub. So here goes nothing. With our Dubious challenge number 1, we find a roll the dice here and see what we find. And we do find the Worldspine Wurm and the Charming Prince. So we'll do Worldspine Wurm and Charming Prince. Okay. Our opponent now gets to choose which one they want, which they should choose the Charming Prince. So we do get the Worldspine Wurm. Not as quickly as we wanted. It has to be a turn 4. Man, with that mana dork, that'd have been pretty awesome. We'd have a 15/15 out attacking in. I think it actually would beat these. So, yep, my opponent chose the right one. See what they'll do. They'll probably scry is my... Yeah, it's my... Oh, yes! It's enough! The scry doesn't find anything and we actually take down a game. So I'm not going to go with Knight of Autumn. I don't think we go with Tamiyo Researcher. It's just weak. Thalia. You know what? Thalia might just be like going Thalia aggro versus this deck might be a thing. I'm going to bring in some Thalias. And what is like bad? Like Nezahal is probably pretty bad versus our opponent, I would say. And yeah, Pelakka Wurm too is pretty bad. We'll bring in the Thalias and see if we can get like a turn 2 Thalia. Could be potentially good versus lands. I mean, the zombies coming to play tapped is pretty legit. So come on, where's the mana dorks? Maybe Thalia wants to be in the main. Yes, we do have the mana dork this time, and we do have the Thalia. So let's see if our game plan actually works. We'll go ahead and keep this. And start off with the Elvish Mystic. Unfortunately, our opponent is on the play, which could just be the grazer and then get out of hand like we saw last time. Womp womp. It is the grazer. Finding an Aether Hub. And we get to go with our good old Mystic. So we'll go Temple Garden. Yes, we'd like to play 2 life. Go with the Elvish Mystic. And I still think the play is going to be the Thalia next turn. Ugh, so our opponent's got the God Draw again, huh? Lame. So, do I go for, like, Trostani? I doubt it. We just go Sunpetal Grove and go for a Thalia. And next turn we have both a Courser and a... No Hour of Promise, one time. Just another forest. Let's see if the hour comes down. Every game, huh? Oh, Golos. This one has Golos. So Golos is a lot better in this deck because they can utilize the mana. So the Gates version can't. This version can then utilize all the mana to then get exile top 3 cards. And we do not have unfortunately have a Dubious challenge here. Cascading Cataracts. To, yeah, really get that Golos. I'm liking my opponent's version of this deck, though. All right, let's see what we can come up with. Champion of Wits. Can't actually even cast it. So, we can start off here with the Courser, which we will do. And see if we can hit a land off the top. Unfortunately, we don't. Yes, we'd like to pay 2 life. Throw out another elf. But I have a feeling here we're going to get beat by like Ugins and Ulamogs. So Thalia can come down, get off for some damage. We at least have a Trostani next turn that pumps everything up, which still probably isn't the best. Adventurous Impulse can get... Creature would be pretty strong here too for as World Breaker is concerned. There is World Breaker. Not enough to cast World Breaker at the moment. And possibly not another land. There is a Radiant Fountain. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 next turn, which will be enough for World Breaker? Yes. Ugh. And then possibly enough too for the Golos. And I'd have to lose a land, too. Man, we ramped out, too. This is what? This is just the turn... This was our turn 3? And this is how far lands is ahead? Need a Blood Moon in this format. Nissa's Pilgrimage. Only gets the 2 basic lands, though, this time around. Forest and Forest. And I don't think I'm going to get there. Smuggler's Copter is terrible. We can't cast the Champion of Wits. We don't have the mana for it. So we'll go ahead and cast Trostani. Or do I want to go for Charming Prince just to scry that away? Yeah, maybe Charming Prince was the play. Because I can't really attack in here. And we'll just pass the turn. And unfortunately, our opponent doesn't have a Sanctum of... Or the land that dies when they cast Eldrazi. But still, this is not looking good for us, especially with Golos can just start being activated, correct? Because the castle... Gonna go for Worldbreaker here? I don't know. I think Golos might be the better play. Here, I think my opponent just kills the Sunpetal Grove. We still can get a Dubious challenge. Dubious challenge is coming up. So next turn we got Dubious challenge, but I don't know if it's going to be able to beat this Golos. Still can't cast this Champion of Wits. So I think the right play is just to go Charming Prince to exile Trostani. And then just Smuggler's Copter. So we'll do that. But we're probably going to lose this. So exile. And then get a Smuggler's Copter. And my opponent can sacrifice a land. Oh, that returns it from the graveyard, so we're in the clear here. So we'll just pass the turn. We get Trostani back. I don't think that Worldspine Wurm is going to be able to beat this. Does it require 2 of each, though? No, 1 of each. Another World Breaker. Well, that just sucks for us. We can still... We have a couple of options here, though. Next turn to get the Dubious challenge. And the Seagate Wreckage. Yikes, going to allow our opponent to draw a ton of cards. Okay, so if we get a land off the top here, which we do, that allows us to Dubious challenge. Unfortunately, I still don't see us getting out of this, but it'll be fun to cast this Dubious challenge. We got another Dubious challenge coming up. So Dubious challenge. That really sucks. That really, really sucks. Womp womp. So we're going to go Champion of Wits here and Charming Prince. And at least we get to draw some cards. But we're so dead to Golos. Too bad we didn't have a knight in here so we could actually kill the Golos. And my opponent is thinking, I don't know if what they need to think here. Actually, my opponent should take the Charming Prince, yeah, and exile the Golos. Could go the Elvish Rejuvenator as well, but you just go Golos here. Yes, I'd like to draw. And now we get to discard 2 cards, which will discard Trostani. And a Charming Prince, I would believe here. No, a Champion of Wits is worse. And then we get to go to attacks. Whoops, I forgot to attack with I forgot to do Smuggler's Copter. My bad there. But we'll attack with what we can. Charming Prince dies to the World Breaker. And opponent gets to take a whopping 2. So, I have a hard time thinking we're going to come out of this. But we'll play it out. We have a Courser coming up next turn. That's pretty crappy. Let's go ahead. Pass the turn. At this point, I think my opponent just gets a Field of the Dead. Could just get another Cascading Cataracts or a Blast Zone. Yeah, I guess that's smart. I have a bazillion mana just to... I don't know what they'd wipe here. So that was a mistake for the Smuggler's Copter. I could have been able to get in for a little more damage, but probably not that much. Well, actually it is quite relevant with the 4/4. So just going to go ahead and destroy my tokens? No, destroyed the 1-drops. Okay, so I can't Dubious challenge next turn. Well, that was rude. And has another World Breaker in hand? Jeez. I mean, I get it, but... with no digging, just naturally draws into, oh, Dragonlord of Tarka. Ugh, that's going to hurt. Need a Hushbringer. Should go for the Trostani, I would assume. And a Soldier. Fair enough. And we can't Dubious challenge next turn either. And then going to attack in with the World Breakers. Nope, decides to keep them back. Unfortunately, we are definitely in a pickle here. That's not going to help. I think what we have to do is we have to go Charming Prince. And what, just scry 2? No. Yes. I guess. I'm not sure. We go... because we can exile the champion, but I think that's pretty bad. I think we just scry 2. We need to find a land on the top. So put on bottom, put on top. This allows us to play. And then we can crew. A Smuggler's Copter at least gives us an attack, so we can loot away this other Courser. And, yeah, discard a Courser. And the World Breakers do have reach, so they kill the Smuggler's Copter. And we can't cast anything here. And now I'm still assuming that my opponent should be activating these Goloses. Yeah, there's Golos. Golos can miss at this point. It's just 3 cards off the top. Still a lot of lands left. So let's see what the 3 cards are. Hour of Promise. All right, that's not going to be good for us. So that gets... It's going to get a bunch of zombies. They do all come into play tapped. Like, that's the problem with this deck, is I don't have a finisher. Dubious Challenge could find, like... I could put Xenagos in here and Dragonlord Atarka for Dubious Challenge, but no, my opponent gets those, so that's pretty bad. That's not the way to go. Speaking of which, that's still a deck that I do want to make, is the Dragonlord Atarka, or Dragonlord, or the other Atarka, the other version of Atarka that gets Dragon's Double Strike and the Xenagos. And then there's a card from Concept Arcure that allows you to look at the top 7 cards of your library and put 2 creatures on the battlefield. That might just be better than Dubious Challenge, to be honest. But again, this is a meme deck, so we're looking for memes. Opponent can still go with the Field of Dead. There's another zombie. Another Grazer, which there could be another land still in my opponent's hand. We don't know what the other card is. It is a forest, isn't it? From... No. And here, I'm sure my opponent's going to start attacking in with Dragonlord Atarka and a World Breaker, huh? No, decides not to go with the World Breaker. All right, so Dubious Challenge is coming out next turn. Again, though, there's not a lot of cards that just flat out win. Does Void Winnower just win here? Do we have enough damage to win with Void Winnower? Not now. That stupid Elvish Rejuvenator definitely... No, it comes to play tapped. And Void Winnower, my opponent can just keep anyway, rather than... All right, so Breeding Pool. Yes, we'd like to play 2 life. And we're going for it for Dubious Challenge number 2. Which, again, I don't think that there's really anything we can do here to get out of this situation. Oh, choose target opponent. All right, Dubious Challenge. Here we go. Stormtide Leviathan is actually pretty good, but we don't have the other piece to it. So, Stormtide Leviathan and Worldspine Wurm, I guess. But we didn't get the other piece. And unfortunately, it's a Thalia. And you gotta think Ugin's gonna be coming soon. Yep, so... Decided to take the Stormtide Leviathan. Creature without flying or island walk can't attack, so nothing of mine can attack. But we do get the ability to get a Charming Prince next turn if we can somehow survive. And the good news is we have a lot of... This Thalia is putting in some work, but Golos is going to be able to activate multiple times per turn. This has actually performed a lot better than I thought it would. So here's the Cascading Cataracts. And then we have another activation of Golos. Opponent still has a ton of mana, too, to start activating the Seagate Wreckage. All right, let's see what you find, Golos. What just happened there? Found Ugin. Womp womp. Ugin is going to be rough, for sure. Because Ugin can now just get rid of... Yeah, Ugin can get... It does hurt my opponent's board as well. But getting rid of, like, the... Oh, finds another World Breaker, huh? Where was I looking at? Oh, it has Ugin, too. That World Breaker just must have been in hand. And this World Breaker is going to allow... No, it revealed off the top? Where am I missing this World Breaker from? Oh, there we go. There was the revealed. What is this? This was... So Ugin and an Ulamog that my opponent can cast, so just hit the nuts off the top with... No, did not. I don't know. I'll have to learn how to read MTGO because it looks like Ulamog is coming down now. No, there's the end phase. Okay, here we go. Come on. Big money, no whammy here. Yes, we'd like to pay 2 life. And we get to go with the Dubious challenge. And it is lagging like crazy. And we do get the Trostani Discordant. And at this point, what? Just a Void Winnower? Because then they can't block. And that's 8. 7/7, though. That's rough. So Trostani for sure. And then Void Winnower for sure on the other one, I believe. But, I mean, Ugin up to 9? Do I attack into Ugin? Can it... So... My opponent can block everything, though. And I can't attack anyway. So I think Ugin's just going to be able to exile everything. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to mess with that. So can't block, but I can't attack. We pass the turn. We get our Stormtide Leviathan back. Or wait a second. I didn't even notice what just happened there. Where'd the Trostani go? Am I missing why? So, wait a second. So, I own Trostani. How come it didn't come back to me at the beginning of your end step? Okay, it takes an entire turn with Trostani. So, Charming Prince definitely is the better play. So, at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control. Yep, so I was just off here. We'll play one more here and see if we can get a better game than lands. But maybe I'll have to find something else besides Trostani now that I'm reading it correctly. So it has to go... See, it's a lot better if you use it with Teferi. And unfortunately, I think that might be the way this deck has to be built. This is definitely a mulligan. Apparently, it doesn't like to give me elves. Oh, now it will give me elves with just an island. That's lovely. And now it will give me elves with just a plains. And that is going to be game here. I guess we can go for the Courser. I'm just going to concede the match. That's absolutely ridiculous. We'll keep it. And we have to put 3 cards on the bottom. So Worldspine Wurm, Charming Prince, and Charming Prince go to the bottom. But man, this deck has like a allergy to getting Elvish Mystics with a green source. I think that was the only non-green sources we could have drawn both times. I guess there's Field of Ruin. But we've lost this. I think we just play lands and then see what our opponent's going up against. So Temple of Enlightenment here. And Hinterland Harbor. So now we're going to flood, huh? Might as well get information for what our opponent's doing. Ooh, that's a neat card, actually. I actually don't think... I think it's Courser of Kruphix is better than Champion at the moment. We have a Llanowar Elves coming up. Just Teferi. Teferi bouncing Courser's not that rough. I'm okay with that. So go ahead and throw out Courser first. And then throw out the elf. Might as well, I think. I think getting out the elf is still smart. We have Champion of Wits coming up. If we can actually eternalize them, they're pretty good. So here I'm thinking like a Supreme Verdict's going to come down. We're just going to lose the game. Last Breath. Last Breath, huh? I mean, I guess. Let's go ahead and Champion. Draw 2, discard 2. I mean, Trostani's terrible here, and so is Champion. Just, I'm thinking just Eternalize is going to be better than... Okay, Blessed Alliance tier, possibly? No, my opponent does not decide to go for that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we draw into a card next turn, we can Eternalize the Champion and then draw some cards. Yeah, so I wonder if like Eldrazi Displacer is better than Trostani Discordant. So we did draw a land. Yes, we like to pay 2 life. So I'm going to make my opponent react to this first. By attacking Trostani with Champion, and then we can Eternalize the Champion that's in the graveyard. So Teferi does die. Could be like a Disallow that's still in my opponent's hand. And that would suck. And there it is. The good old Disallow takes care of that Champion. So now we need some luck on the draws here. Still don't have a white source to cast anything. Both Hinterland are 2 breeding pools and 1 Hinterland, so most of our sources are going to be white. And Teferi, Hero of Dominaria this time, ticks up. Don't really think we can really draw out of anything here. I think in this particular situation, though, we're going to be able to see what the aggro draw does. Like, that's a pretty terrible... Yeah, there's no way we're coming back for this, which is Smuggler's Copter. So going to the sideboard, I think actually this is the one where Dubious Challenge might just come out. Like, we'll bring in the Pithing Needle for sure. Thalia, Heretical Cathar doesn't seem to be the greatest. Eidolon of Rhetoric is okay. Display of Dominance is definitely going to be good for killing Teferis. This is definitely a really potent card. I think it's going to flat out replace Veil of Summer with being able to destroy a blue or black non-creature permanent. And then, that's right there. That's Okos and Teferis. And then permanents you control can't be targeted blue or black spells. So it doesn't give you hexproof, so it's definitely not as strong. But I mean, we could just go the flat out aggro strategy here and just take out all the Worldspine Wurms and whatnot. I mean, Worldspine Wurm is probably pretty bad versus Teferi. So possibly actually we could keep in Nezahals and Dubious Challenges, like 1 possibly. But that even seems pretty bad. So I think we just bring in the aggro package, and we'll see how well the aggro package works. And we'll submit this. And this is the last game I'm able to do here. We'll try to play this game a little bit more. What is up with this crap? Guess it doesn't want us to have a keepable hand today. And no white source either, as it gives double breeding pool. So this could be just the loss due to the mana. And possibly that's something I should put in here, like Howled Fountains instead of those. I mean, white typically isn't that big of a deal, though. There's not too many white sources we need to be casting in this deck. It is mainly going to be the blue and the green, but possibly going up a few more white sources, especially with the sideboard getting more dependent on white. Again, haven't tested this deck out. The mana base is definitely bad. So, irrigated farmland from my opponent. Hopefully we can get... Feels bad, man. All right, let's go ahead and attack in with the Elvish Mystic. Oh, if that's a white source, I think we're ahead here because we get a 3/2 out that then starts to make the non-basic lands enter tapped. But without a white source, we're just donezo. And that is game. It wants to give us all our Knight of Autumns and no white source. All right, let's hurry and play. I don't have time today to do it, but yeah, I think it was a fun lands match nonetheless to see that the Dubious challenges. Definitely misread Trostani. You'd think I'd know how Dubious Challenge with Trostani works, but I've never built a Dubious Challenge deck before. Charming Prince definitely is the key card for this deck. Possibly Eldrazi Displacer is something we can look into as a Trostani replacement, because that does feel pretty bad to have to wait an entire turn for you to get your cards back. However, it still is probably one of the better cards. The scenario still is that you will get your stuff back that following turn, so your opponent does have a turn attacking with the tokens and the Trostani. But Teferi, I think, is still the better route for this deck. Teferi Dubious Challenge, so basically an instant speed Dubious Challenge, is a lot more potent than a sorcery speed one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this deck list, and your criticism and constructive criticism and your comments are definitely welcome in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.